Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday night, 9 o'clock here on the East Coast, which means it is Q&A time, question and answer. We take any and all questions on Thursday night show. So these shows always make me really nervous because I don't know who's going to show up. I don't know how many people are going to show up. I don't know how many questions are going to be asked. I know we already got one from our guy Thorn Thurston, excuse me, over there in the YouTube chat, but man, this is you guys' show. Y'all steer this. Y'all drive this. Obviously, all questions, any and all questions. Preferably, they're about Tennessee versus Georgia this weekend, but I don't really care. We'll sit here and chat it up. We'll talk about anything tonight. While we're waiting on people to get in here and start loading in, fired off the questions, I do want to let everybody know, if you don't follow me on Twitter, please do. It's at Brooks Austin SI. But for those of you who do follow me on Twitter, you would have noticed today that there's some changes going on with what we're doing here on the YouTube channel. Don't go scurrying yet. The folks over at YouTube, y'all are still going to get plenty of content. Wednesdays and Thursdays show are going to be up on YouTube just like always. We're going to live stream them like always. We're going to keep that content there. Now, what we are going to do, because if you guys have been following these live streams, and a lot of you have, these live streams on Monday and Tuesday have really been shut down. And the reason it is because I don't own the rights to that game footage. This weekend, when they play Tennessee on CBS Network, I don't have that game footage. That's not mine. So when I sit down to do game film for it, I'm just doing it for free. And I'm an honest guy. I'm gonna be 100% with you. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't do much in this business that doesn't provide some dollars and cents into my pocket. It's getting to a point now where I'm a little stretched out, and it doesn't make sense for me to do anything that isn't bringing money into my pocket. And I hope you guys can completely understand that. And it's not a lot. So what we're doing now is Monday and Tuesday, those offense and defensive breakdowns, they will be on my Patreon account. The link is in the bio here on YouTube and on Periscope over there on Twitter as well. Small monthly fee, $5. Heck, you can go, you buy a foot long for that for lunch. So if you can give me those $5 a month, it automatically gets you the offense and defensive breakdowns every single week, Monday and Tuesday. Now, if you want to, upgrade it a little bit for $10, you can over there on Patreon. I give you the offense and defensive breakdowns, obviously, on Monday and Tuesday. Friday morning, you'll get the recruit of the week. After tonight's show, I'm going to go break down a recruit's, highlight film, tell you what I like about them, tell you where they can improve, things like that. Most of these kids I've already seen in person this coming up year. So we'll probably focus on 2021's class, to begin, and then we'll move forward into that 2022 class and 2023 class. That'll be on Friday morning. Saturday, we'll sit down together and we'll watch the game over there on Patreon Plus. So our $10 monthly subscribers will get that. And then Sunday, we'll open it up for kind of something like this. We'll hang out, get instant reactions on Sunday. Maybe talk a little NFL football. I don't know how that show is going to work out. We'll just kind of spitball it there. But I want you guys to be fully involved in that, and not only fully involved, fully informed. Not only why and where we're going, but why we're going there. Okay. So the 9,000 views or whatever it was on the Arkansas film breakdown we did 2 weeks ago, the combined 12,000 views, that was all out of the kindness and goodness of my heart. So I can't really move forward with like Jermaine in here. Jermaine Dunbar said, got to feed the family. Absolutely have to feed the family. And the only way to do that is to get some minor subscription fees. So I wanted to explain that to you. I'm not money hungry, but if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the thing. And if you guys haven't noticed, I put in a lot of time and effort into these video breakdowns for you guys. And I think it's worth what I'm asking for. So if it's not, let me know. We can talk about that and we can hash it out. But first of all, you guys know I greatly appreciate every single thing you guys support of mine. And I obviously can't do it without you guys. So I appreciate that. So without further ado, let's get right into these questions. And Thorn brings a very good one. And this is one that needs to be talked about. It's going to be talked about. It's been talked about all week. The weather with Hurricane, I think Delta is what it is. Hurricane Delta coming through. We just don't know how much weather we're going to get in Athens. We don't know how hard it's going to rain. And if it does, the questions now become, if it turns into like a Kentucky game from last year, what role does that weather play? If it's raining just cats and dogs, who does that lend an advantage to? One thing I will tell you is that field over there in Sanford Stadium, that thing can take about, it seems like 8 or 9 inches worth of rain. That's some of the best grass I've ever walked on in my life. And if you haven't had the opportunity to, it's a dang shame because that stuff is amazing. They do a great job of keeping that up and ready to go. And we haven't really gotten a lot of rain lately. So that grass will probably hold a good bit more than it typically does. As for who it, lends an advantage to, I think it's about even. With the way Georgia ran the football last week, with the way they might be able to push Tennessee around up front on the offensive side of the football, I think it's about a dead push, especially considering what Tennessee does offensively. They're a run-based or run-heavy offense anyway. So you could probably tell, or I guarantee you, Jeremy Pruitt's telling his guys that if there is rain, if there is heavy rain, it's playing to our advantage because that's what we want to do anyways. We want to play downhill. We want to run the football. But if you can't execute, you can't execute. So I think Georgia's going into this game expecting Tennessee to run the ball 35, 40, 50 times on Saturday. So they're expecting what they're going to get: rain, sleet or snow, or if it's sunny and 75. I think Georgia's prepared to sit in there and try to stop the run 3 downs in a row before they either force a punt or Tennessee converts a first down. So that's kind of the impact I think it's going to have. Now, the problem that Georgia might face is I haven't seen Stetson Bennett's hands. Obviously, I haven't done one of these with him. I know Jake Fromm had little bitty hands. He always struggled in the rain. He had to wear the gloves last year at Texas A&M. Remember, Kentucky, he was wearing a glove as well. So does it affect how well you throw the football? Obviously. Does it affect how well you catch the football? 100%. Does Jarrett Guarantano have a big physical frame and big, massive hands and the ability to drive the ball through weather? Yeah. So will that play to his advantage? Probably. So those are kind of my thoughts on the rain. But all in all, both these teams are physical football teams. They want to assert their will and assert their dominance. And if that's what the game comes down to, I'm taking the big guys up front on both sides from Georgia, not necessarily Tennessee. So if it were a full free air raid like we thought it was going to be without the rain, I would have taken Georgia minus the 12.5, which is the line now. Right now, I'm probably if I were a gambler, which I'm not, I would probably take Tennessee with the 12.5 points because I just don't think, it might, if it rains as hard as we think it might, you're going to be fighting to score 21, 25, 30 points anyway. So we'll see just how that plays out ultimately. We got Dylan Trexler in here. With Tennessee's predicted, quote, game plan, do you think that Georgia will need to stack the box or just keep the regular 3-4 nickel look with the talent that UGA has in the front? I've already said on Twitter that I fully expect Tennessee to come out and run that heavy offensive set where they've got multiple extra offensive linemen in. They throw the tight ends out of the game almost entirely and play, 7, sometimes even 8 offensive linemen in the formation. So in that case, no, I don't believe Georgia stays in their nickel, base defense that they try to play. Look, this has been a kind of thorn in my side with Georgia for a long time since I've been covering them. They claim themselves as an odd front defense. They claim themselves as a 3-4 defense. If you watch them on Saturdays, very rarely, except for third downs, do they have 2 outside linebackers on the field. Most of the time, it looks like a 4-down front. It's a converted 4-down front, don't get me wrong, but there's 4 defensive linemen basically on the field, Azeez Ojulari being the 4th. Their starting line all year this year has been Azeez Ojulari with his hand down, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, and Malik Herron, and they play 2 linebackers, Nakobe Dean and Monty Rice. So to me, it's all their base defense is a 4-2-5 if you really look at it. Now they try to do funky things to make it look like an odd front defense, but it's not. To me, it's an even front 4-2-5 nickel defense. Is that what's going to show up on Saturday? Maybe not. I honestly think they do one of 2 things. They bring an extra defensive lineman into the formation, so like a guy like Nolan Smith or Trayvon Walker, or Jalen Carter, or maybe they rotate all 3 as that additional down lineman, and then they might stay in nickel, but instead of a guy like Tyreek Stevenson being the nickel corner, maybe you see a guy like Mark Webb as the nickel corner on Saturday. I think that's probably the guy. When we do our starting lineups, I think that's the guy that's going to get this starting lineup because Mark Webb is so physical in the run game. He's basically an additional linebacker into the formation for those guys. Even last year, if you watch them, when they went dime, when they went 6 DBs on the field, it was just Mark Webb playing outside linebacker. So I honestly think that's what they end up doing. I appreciate you, Jermaine. I'm appreciating doing the content. I'm glad you guys are liking the content. Let's get back up. I get way too in depth on some of these questions. UGA by 1,000, says Elite Marquise. I'm pretty sure that's Marquise Groves Killebrew. Hey, Marquise, I will be out there at Brookwood tomorrow. You know, I basically live there on Friday nights. Can't wait to see you guys play Marietta. I hope the weather holds up. That's definitely Marquise Groves Killebrew. 2022 commit. You know what, Marquise? Since you showed up in the stream, we might be breaking your highlight tape down tonight. I'm cool with it. Definitely will be there. How much will rain play a factor? We've already got that question. Last year, UK game all over. I think it's a very strong possibility. That was an absolute thunderstorm. I mean, it didn't thunder, but it was raining heavy that whole football game. I think it's a very good possibility that you see something very similar to what we saw last year against Kentucky. Jeremiah _ Stott 7 says, a good bit of talk about McKitty playing this weekend. Is that true? Look, Kirby Smart said in his press conference this week, it's not a whole lot of talk. It's talk from the head man himself that he's got a good chance to play on Saturday. So if Kirby's saying he's got a good chance, I'm going to tell you he's got a great chance to play on Saturday. He typically doesn't do that stuff. If there's limited chance, like listen to how he talks about JT Daniels. He starts saying, I don't know, we may or may not get him out there. We'll see if we can get an opportunity to get him out there. It's hard to get him into reps in practice. If Kirby Smart's saying in front of the media that he expects him to get out there, if he expects him to play, has a good chance to play, that type of verbiage, that type of diction, odds are he's going to be in the football game. Now, here's the only thing. Darnell Washington's been their pass blocking or their run blocking, tight end all season. They had him on the end of the line of scrimmage all season. I believe that if and when Trey McKitty comes back and is fully healthy, you're going to see him play and take over John Fitzpatrick's role as more of the ball-catching tight end. I think Fitzpatrick's got 7 or 8 receptions already on the season, and Darnell has 1, I believe, against Arkansas. He didn't have any last week against Auburn, I don't believe. So if that's true, if McKitty is back in this lineup, I think you're going to see him more as a ball catcher, which if it's pouring down rain, you're probably not going to see Georgia throw the ball too many times anyway. So I think that's how they plan to use these guys. They plan to use Darnell as the heavy blocking tight end with Trey McKitty more as the flex tight end moving forward. What is your opinion on the quarterback play for Georgia? Look, I thought Stetson has as full of a command of an offense as you could possibly have as a quarterback. That's to be expected. Pretty smart kid. He's gotten to where he is with stuff from the neck up. It's not really stuff from the neck down. His mentality has been way, way beyond his years in terms of how mature in his approach towards the game of football. So in terms of the way he's played, I think someone sent me some stuff today about his QBR. He's second in the nation right now in quarterback rating, which to me is kind of a stat anyways. I don't really pay attention to that. You guys know me, I'm the film guy for a reason. Advanced statistics can often sway you to actually what you're seeing. A little bit about my process. I watch the game, rewatch the tape, check the analytics and the advanced statistics. If there's anything that dissuades me or, makes me reevaluate what I thought I saw on tape, then I go back and rewatch and see what the stats are telling me and see if I can actually see it in the game tape. I think that's the best way to approach this. Too many times, like, I'm not going to call people nerds, but too many times there's the analytical guy that gets in and tries to just look at the numbers and say, well, this is what happened. No, sometimes you've got to look on tape to actually see what happened. Maybe there was a forced incompletion because the right tackle got his butt whooped. Is that on the quarterback? Should it drop his QBR 3 points? Probably not. It's on the tackle. You know what I'm saying? That kind of stuff to me is more, important. That's why I use it as a confirmation or a reevaluation point is how I use statistics. But to answer your question, and it's a long roundabout answer, I thought Stetson's had full command of this offense, which at this point early in the season is exactly what you need at the quarterback position, especially with a lot of young guys playing wide receiver around you, some continuity issues going on up front. They're still trying to figure that stuff out. So I think that's the main thing for me watching Stetson play. I'm going to try to rattle through these a little quicker. Do you think UGA's offense takes off this Saturday? It's all a question about the rain. It's hard for me to sit here and say they're going to score 35, 40 points if we're in a torrential downpour. You feel me? Now, are they going to control time of possession? Are they going to be able to run the football? I think so. I don't think Tennessee has seen anything like they're going to see this week from Georgia's offensive line. So I think that's the main key thing right there. Does Georgia have the best defense in the nation? Yeah, you can absolutely make the argument. The only counterpoint to that is after watching, and I know they play in the ACC, and people are going to get pissed off about this statement, but if you watch how those young guys are playing for Clemson this year, they're awfully scary. Brian Bazee, Miles Murphy, those two freshmen playing for those guys, along with all of the loads of talent they've got on that defensive side of the football, I think you can make the argument for Clemson as well. But just the pure depth, I'm taking Georgia. Just how good they are, top to bottom, 1 through 11, and then 12 through 22. I don't think it gets more impressive than what Georgia's got going on. We got a super chatter in here. Let's get to him first, and then we'll scroll back up. Since you're already talking about Stetson, where do you think he can take Georgia? I think the ceiling for Stetson Bennett is a 9-1 season. I don't know if you go to Tuscaloosa and ride him out and think you're going to score with Alabama. Maybe it happens. Maybe they squeak out an easy, a close win there in Tuscaloosa. But I really do think you're looking at a 9-1 SEC East championship team. The only question I would have is whether or not they're going to be able to score enough with Florida. Now, a lot of Georgia fans will look at me and say, well, Brooks, Florida ain't putting up those kind of points against Georgia. And to which I would say, well, let's just see. Maybe they do. And if they do, will Stetson Bennett at the helm of this offense be able to score with an offense like Florida? Look, it's the same thing we saw against LSU last year. The defense looked incredible all year long. They have one bad day, and then you're neck deep in water, and you're just treading water trying to score enough points to even get back into the football game. If Georgia's defense has a bad day, then can Stetson make up for the defense? That's the problem Georgia's had for the last 3 years with Jake Fromm at quarterback, and I'm worried if I'm a Georgia fan that might still be the same thing going on right now with Stetson Bennett. But we haven't seen that happen. We haven't seen Georgia give up a bunch of points, and that game in Jacksonville just might be the one. And if not, then yeah, if Georgia comes out and holds every defense or every offense in the SEC to 14 points, absolutely. I could play quarterback and probably win 10 games in the SEC. But if they have one bad day, the question is, can Stetson overcome that? And right now, we just don't know. That's going to be a, hold your breath when it happens if you're a Georgia fan. Let's see. We got to go all the way back up to where we were. We were talking about Georgia having the best defense in the nation. I'll take our D-line over the O-line, says Coffin. I agree with you there. Which running back tandem do you like better? I like Tennessee's a lot, but I like Georgia's just because it's 4 deep. I know I've ragged on James Cook on this channel for quite a bit of time, but he's still extremely talented. If you give him 9 yards, he's going to get 10. So I really do think Georgia's got the advantage at the running back position. Do they have the advantage on the offensive line? No, but they got the advantage everywhere else in terms of offense. Appreciate you, Husker Gray. I worked hard on that Auburn video. Appreciate that. We'll go to Long Gone Dog right here. What's your take, or what's the status of Jermaine Johnson? I mean, you guys are here. I'll go ahead and tell you. Last I heard, it was a pretty big shoulder issue with Jermaine. Now, it's just a matter of whether or not he can play through it. And here's the deal about Kirby Smart. If you don't have to play a guy that's injured or banged up, he's just not going to. That's been his MO as a head coach since he's been here. If they know that Adam Anderson's played great all season, if they know Nolan Smith can come in there on third downs and get after the passer, if they know Azeez Ojulari is fit and physically ready to play 4 quarters without coming out of the game, then he won't. They won't play Jermaine Johnson, and it's not really going to play a factor because that's the deepest position, I think, in college football. The outside linebackers room at Georgia is insanely deep. I honestly think if you guys saw Mikael Sherman out there playing outside linebacker, he would fit right in. Like, it would be very little, if any, drop off at that position. So if that's what it takes to keep that kid fully healthy, especially now, like, just think about what he did last year with Julian Rochester. Okay, played him when he needed him throughout the season with a banged up knee, and just took the red shirt, took the medical red shirt, or the regular red shirt, I believe, brought him back for a 5th year as a senior. I really do think that might be a situation that you see with Jermaine Johnson. And heck, this year he don't even have to give him the red shirt. The NCAA already has. So I think that's the main thing to pay attention to right there. Long gone dog. That's a mouthful. You think Freddie Kitchens is really helping Jeremy Pruitt prep for Todd Monken? Remember, Kitchens fired Monken in Cleveland. This is news to me, Josh. I haven't heard anything about this. I wouldn't be surprised, though, and here's why. It has nothing to do with malice towards Todd Monken. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with coaches being buddies everywhere they go. The coaching tree, and this is something I learned in college because I went through a whole lot of coaching changes, and it seemed like every new coach that they brought in just brought in a slew load of their buddies that they used to work with somewhere else. So somewhere along their coaching tree, I guarantee you Freddie Kitchens and Jeremy Pruitt have crossed paths. They may not have been on the same staff, but they might have had an offensive line coach that knew a defensive line coach that coached with Freddie Kitchens 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it works. All these guys are buddies. They all hang out. They all talk. Hey, we're going to write an article tonight ready for tomorrow morning about Lane Kiffin, Jeremy Pruitt, Kirby Smart, and I think one other guy, or Will Muschamp. All four of them are in a group text. They're all four in a group text. They're four head coaches in the SEC, and they're in a group text talking all the time, all because they have one commonality. They all coached under Nick Saban. So they may not have all been there at the same time, even though I think they crossed paths all together. So that's where the relationship comes from. But you see what I'm saying? Like, the coaching tree everywhere you go is always going to be a buddy-buddy system. And honestly, especially in the NFL, because you need elite coaches, I think that's the main issue. That's why you see NFL teams have poor coaching, because everybody hires their buddy. It's a big buddy system. Here we go. On to Rudy. Really glad I can make the live stream finally. I'm glad you're here tonight, Ruby. You mentioned the run game. Rudy, run game in the offense analysis. What's the biggest change you've seen in the run game from the last year? Is this Georgia or Tennessee? I'll answer them both. Georgia, I just think they're doing a lot more stuff in terms of pulling guards. I didn't see a lot of that last year from Georgia, but other than that, it's still the same. I'll tell you the major difference, right? The pulling guards, stuff like that. The major difference to me is every single one of these quarterbacks, both these quarterbacks that we've seen this year, are actually read option threats. I counted one time, I believe, last year, and it was against Texas A&M, or the last time was against Texas A&M in the third or fourth quarter. Jake Fromm kept the ball on a read option. The whole SEC championship game, I've got a thread of it on my Twitter feed of how many plays that James Coley called for Jake Fromm to have an actual read option type of threat look, and he never kept the ball. All 7 times he was supposed to keep the football, and he didn't. To me, that's the major difference in a run game this year for Georgia. Every single one of these guys they put in the lineup, apart from JT Daniels, is going to be very willing and able to pull the football and get some yardage with his legs. And what that does to a defense is it holds that backside in and makes them play honest. It makes them keep their shoulders square, like we talked last night or 2 nights ago on the defensive breakdown. Remember that clip we showed with Azeez Ojulari really squeezing hard and keeping his shoulders squared to the quarterback in case he kept the football? Well, that doesn't happen if you don't have an actual threat to keep the ball. Otherwise, they just add on into the play. Over, under, how many sacks does UGA have in the game? So I think the real question is over, under, how many times does Tennessee drop back and try to throw the football? I would set that at 25, honestly. I think they don't try to throw the ball more than 25 times on Saturday, which means I would set the over, under on sacks at 2.5. Okay? Actually, Vegas, because there are half sacks, Vegas does this goofy thing where if there's a half sack, they'll call it 2.25. So I'd set the line at 2.25. Maybe they go over at 2.5. Here we go. How high would you say the mailman's ceiling is? How far could Georgia go with him? Jeremiah, we already answered this question, but I'll briefly answer it again. The ceiling, the floor to me is 9-1. The ceiling is he bails you out of a football game where your defense just doesn't show up. When does the star position usually come into play on our defense? What is their role? The star starts almost every single football game nowadays. Now, here's the thing. Georgia has a ton of defensive packages. I mean, like a long list of different personnel groupings that they throw in and that they play with. If there is 2 tight ends on the field, the star comes out, they bring an extra linebacker onto the field. But the thing is, apart from Tennessee and maybe Alabama and Georgia, everybody in the SEC pretty much has removed 12 personnel from their playbook. They don't run it. So when you play against a team like LSU from last year, or you play against a team like Mississippi State from this year, it's going to be Tyreek Stevenson starting at the star position because he's much more of a cover type of star, a cover type of corner. He played corner in high school where whereas Mark Webb played wide receiver in high school, and somehow, miraculously, he's become one of the best tackling defensive backs that Georgia has. So if they get a run-heavy look to open the game against Tennessee, Mark Webb will get the start. If they get a pass-heavy look to open the game, Tyreek Stevenson will get the start. This is exactly what we saw the first week of the season. Tyreek Stevenson gets the start at star. Well, because Arkansas is going 4 wide with a single running back in the backfield. So that kind of stuff really dictates who gets the start, but almost all of them play equal time. Can UGA make UT one-dimensional? I think a 2-score lead is huge for the Dogs, make them throw when they don't want to. Here's the deal. I think Tennessee wants to be one-dimensional. I really do. They run the ball 42.5 times per game. They ran the ball 85 times in 2 football games. They've thrown it maybe 60. They want to be a run-first football team. So the question is, can Georgia hold up in the run game early? And like Clay Hound right here is saying, can they force them to be one-dimensional? Can they force them to sit back there and know everybody in the stadium knows that they're throwing the football? I think they've got a very, very good chance to do it. How nasty can Trayvon and Carter be as an interior tandem? Here's the deal. I don't know if they ever do. I don't know if they ever play interior together. Here's what I think ends up happening. When Malik Herring leaves this year, because he's a senior, assuming he leaves, this NCAA rule throws a wrench into everything. It jacks up everything. Let's just assume Malik Herring leaves. You've already seen what they're doing with Trayvon Walker this year. They're playing him at that defensive end role. I think Trayvon Walker slides into that Malik Herring role the moment he's off the roster for Georgia. And in fact, he's actually playing a little bit of it right now when Malik needs a breather. So I think that's what ends up happening. I think you see Trayvon Walker play that true defensive end role for Georgia, and you see Jalen Carter play more of that Devontae Wyatt type of role. And they'll have to find somebody to replace Jordan Davis, because if you guys ain't been watching how that Joker's been playing, I think he's 3 and done. I really do. I think he's got an opportunity to be a top 60 pick this year in the NFL draft, which leaves you kind of scratching your head saying, what does Georgia do next year at the nose tackle position? That's the real question moving forward for Georgia. Mike Griffith said there's a reason Monken and Kirby told Stetson he's not their QB. That's a very good point, Joey. And obviously Mike's a good dude. Mike's a great guy. Goj. I've been saying for this for a bit now, and I must say, if Georgia can find a long-term QB, then I think we will be the best by a good margin in the country. Look, Mike said it. I've said it. Everybody that's paid attention to this football team this year has said it. There's a reason DeJuan started. They think his ceiling is much higher than that of Stetson. Now, here's the difference. The floor, right? Ceiling versus floor is a discussion that a lot of evaluators like myself have all the time. What is the absolute worst a guy's going to look like versus what is the absolute best the guy's going to look like? The absolute best of DeJuan Mathis is higher than anybody on that roster. Carson Beck, JT Daniels, Stetson Bennett included. The floor, the absolute worst that can happen, I think Stetson Bennett's floor is just as high as guys like JT Daniels, right? I mean, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get 65% completion percentage at worst. At best, he's going to complete 70% of his balls. You're going to get 10 to 14 yards per reception or yards per completion. You're not really going to be able to drive the ball down the field, but you're not going to turn the football over. So I think that's the main difference for me. But yeah, if they get a quarterback that has an incredibly high ceiling to play without having to worry about his floor, then yeah, Georgia could be the best team in the country. But that you can say that about a whole lot of teams, right? The quarterback position is the most important position in all of sports, not just football, all of sports. If you have a good quarterback, great quarterback, you've got a great chance to win, and you've got a great chance to be the best team in the. That's a discussion that we have all the time as evaluators. High ceiling versus low floor, right? Will there be folding chairs on the sideline this Saturday? Man, those jokes, I don't. Are they ever going to get old for the Georgia? Again, I'm not. You guys, if you don't know this by now, I'm not a Georgia fan. I'm just a guy who's tasked with covering the team. And I've had a great time over the last 18 months, 20 months, interacting with you guys, because I think you're some of the most, interactive, not only interactive fan bases, but kind of creative ones and passionate, right? Your passion is all get out. I don't think this one ever dies. I think this one stays around, and this joke's made for the rest of eternity. With all due respect for Jake Fromm, who would you pick, Bennett or Fromm? Man, I can't go. I spent 8 months defending from last year. It's hard for me to sit here and say, nah, Jake Fromm's out. Here's why. You give him this system, you let him throw the ball. I think they threw the ball 35, 40 times against Arkansas. You let him do that. You let him play with rhythm. You let him get an offense like what Monken's allowing these guys to run. And his decision-making, man. The guy's such a quick processor. Say what you want about the arm strength. Say what you want about the arm talent, all that stuff. The guy is a quick decision-maker. And in an offense like this, that could be absolutely deadly. Toss-up, though, because of what Stetson provides you with his legs. Comparing how much better Stetson looks this year compared to last has to reinforce belief. Yeah, see, is a major upgrade. Monken is being a major upgrade. Absolutely. But here's the deal. I don't really, if you guys haven't noticed, we don't watch any garbage time tape on these breakdowns. Zero. Absolutely zero garbage time, because I find it really, really hard to evaluate you when your team's up 4 scores as a quarterback. It's almost impossible. We don't look at it because you're basically running the ball every single down, and then if you get into a 3rd and long, everybody in the stadium knows you're finally going to throw the football. So I don't really like to evaluate those types of things. So I'm definitely not going back and watching Stetson Bennett versus Murray State, because that's not a true indication of who that kid is, if that makes any sense. Wasn't it 5 running backs that had 5+ carries last week? Absolutely. Rigdon Daniel. I'm going to call you RD. Absolutely, RD. It was 5 running backs with 5+ carries, and I think that's going to be something that you see. Look, when I say Georgia's got 4 good ones, forgive me, Colquitt County lovers. Forgive me, Southwest Georgia. Dejon Edwards is a good football player. I think the totem pole goes Zamir, Kenny, James Cook, Kendall Milton, Dejon Edwards. Okay, to me, that's just the way it looks right now. But he's a great football player. He'll play at Georgia for 4 years. He'll probably he might play that Brian Herrien role his whole career. If you guys remember, Brian Herrien had 350 yards, I believe, as a true freshman. He played every single year he was at Georgia, but was he ever the feature back? No. And is Dejon Edwards ever going to be the feature back? I don't know. It doesn't look like it to me. So that's why I say it that way. With the weather looking bleak, who do you see winning both lines of the line of scrimmage? I think Georgia's gonna, like, if you just gave them grades, right, offense and defensive line, I think Georgia's defensive line is going to play at about a B-. I think Georgia's offensive line is going to play at about a C+. I think Tennessee's offensive line is going to play at about a B flat. And Tennessee's offensive line is going to play about a D. Or excuse me, defensive line is going to play about a D, if that makes any sense. I'm giving Georgia the advantage. If you just give me what they have defensively up front in that front 7 and, what they're finally putting together offensively up front, I'm taking Georgia in that one, despite how good I think Tennessee's offensive line is. Is there any position group that Tennessee can outplay Georgia out this season? Offensive line is about it. Look, guys, I think there's 3 NFL guys just right now in this upcoming draft. I know Wanya is a sophomore, but I think Wanya Morris is going to ultimately be a Sunday guy. Trey Smith going to be a first rounder. If y'all ain't woke up on that one, you need to. That dude is a flat out baller. And I do think Cade Mays is an NFL type of football player, because just his versatility alone, he's going to play on Sundays. So I think those 3 guys all play on Sunday. Now, the young guys, 72 and 76, those 2 guys are really good football players as well. They've got a shot at playing on Sundays. Did I miss a year of recruiting? There's an awful lot of panic this week. We respect Tennessee, but we own them, and it should be just as ugly. I think, Jermaine, I think what you're hearing is that typical fandom fear is what I call that. There was a lot of fandom fear last week against Auburn, and Auburn hasn't recruited near as well as what Tennessee has this year. That's my thing. All this buzz about what Tennessee's doing on the trail, they've done in 2021. That 2020 class wasn't that heroic, right? I mean, they got Harrison Bailey, but apart from that, it wasn't like all world. So all this talk about how well they've recruited has been in 2021. So I'm with you. Georgia still got the Jimmies and the Joes on the football field. Does Tennessee disguise their D as well as we do? How big a difference between UGA, Tennessee, Bama, and South Carolina defense? That's a loaded question, Ernest. I don't think anybody, apart from maybe Alabama, disguises defense as well as Georgia. We showed you that on last night's tape just a little bit. But no, I don't think anybody does it as well as Georgia. How big of a difference between UGA, Tennessee, Bama, and SC? First of all, Tennessee and South Carolina, you can just put them way outside this conversation. It becomes a conversation between and Georgia. And to be honest, Alabama's got a first-round draft pick at each level of their defense, right? They got LeBron Ray, who, if he can stay healthy, going to be a first-round draft pick from South Carolina. Dylan Moses is back, and he is back. That dude's balling. And then you got Patrick Surtain, who's a really good corner. So that's the only thing there. I think that would be the discussion. I would still give Georgia the edge there just because of how deep they are. Here, Stetson has a tendon issue in his hand. Can he really grip the ball and throw it? He's been gripping and throwing it all week. And I'm going to tell you this right now. As a kid in that position, man, they're going to have to haul him off the field for him not to play. He's going to do everything. They're going to shoot that thing up a quarter zone. They're going to do absolutely everything to keep that kid on the field because he is not coming off unless you are taking him out in a body bag. A kid in that position, because I've been in it, when you finally get your shot, you're making sure you never give it up. And injury is the quickest way to give that shot up. So as far as a tendon issue in his throwing hand, man, that thing's going to be so numb that it ain't going to really matter. Here we go. Do you think the rain and a McKitty coming back that Georgia rolls out a bunch of three-time? No. 13 personnel? Absolutely not. If they do, I would be stunned. It's just taking too many weapons. They got too many wide receivers in that wide receiver room to just be running out 3 tight ends. I just don't think it's really worth it. Now, there has been some that Monken's done in his history. If you go back to his Tampa Bay days where he's got Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard, and I think one other decent tight end, yeah, they ran some 3 tight end stuff, but it was all goal line. So, yeah, maybe you see that. But, no, I would venture to say that that's not something to be worried about. Think McKitty makes an impact? We've already hit on this one, Caleb. If and when, like this week, if it's pouring down rain, I think you're going to see 2 offenses in a slobber knocker where they just run the ball down each other's throat or try to all night long. But moving forward, I think you're going to see McKitty play that John Fitzpatrick role. Darnell stay as the primary blocking tight end. Is Smart mad enough at Tennessee to run the score up? He dang sure ran it up last year. What was that score, like 42-14 last year? Most of that was in the second half. I think they went into halftime like 21-14, something like that, and shut them down, scored 30-something unanswered out there in the second half. So that's pretty nuts. Stetson has practiced all week, but is sporting a cast. Okay, Britt, here's the deal. Obviously, you guys know that with COVID and all that stuff, they're not letting the media into that building, period. All the stuff's on Zoom. All we get's pictures from the SID department, and every picture I've seen is him, not in a cast, which they're not going to show us that stuff anyways. But he's been throwing the football. He's been throwing it out without a cast. I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't really dug in on it because what I was told Saturday night is kind of what I relayed to you this past, about 5 minutes ago, that nothing's keeping that kid from coming off the field. The brace that he's wearing during practice is probably there just to keep there from further damage being done to his hand, to be honest with you. But to me, there was no need to dig on it because I heard from a pretty strong source that, he's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, as the kids say, he's built different. Yeah, his pain tolerance is just a little bit different. Is there a position group on the field? I think we're already on these. For us general folks, non-football playing, etc., what is the Sam and Mike linebacker position? I love this question. Okay, so here's the deal. If we're talking Georgia's defense, the Sam position, okay, they play 4 linebackers, right? They're a 3-4 defense. Odd front, 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers if they're in standard personnel. If they're not in nickel, which they play nickel about 96% of the time. The other 4% of the time they play dime. So here's the difference. Here's what it is. Georgia plays a jack, which is Azeez Ojulari. It's that real strong hand down in the dirt defensive end. They play a Mike, they play a Will, and they play a Sam. The Sam is Jermaine Johnson, Nolan Smith, Mikael Sherman, Adam Anderson. These guys that can play in space and they're kind of outside the box if they're on the field, or they come down and they rush two defensive ends. It's still in an even front. They just take a big guy off the field on third down. They take Malik Herring. They take Jordan Davis off the field, and they bring on guys like Jermaine Johnson and play two defensive ends actually in a true front. But here's the deal. The Mike is the middle linebacker, right? The will often stands on the weak side. So what the weak side is, if I've got three receivers to my left, the Mike is standing in the left. The will is oftentimes flexed out right outside the box. The Mike stays in the middle. Mike, middle linebacker. It's varying on every single defense, to be honest with you. It all depends on how they play their personnel, who they like to split outside the box. Here's how I can tell. The Mike, to me, and the difference here for Georgia is the question of what's the difference between the Mike and the will, because the Sam's never really on the field. So here's the difference between the Mike and the will. Here's how you know. When an offense goes empty, right? Nobody in the backfield but the quarterback in shotgun. Whoever leaves the box to run with the running back, which has been Nakobe Dean all season, that guy's the will. Whoever stays in the box, that guy's the Mike. Make sense? Nice and simple. How do we beat Bama? Garrett, I love the question. Let's hold off. We literally got 1 week, baby. Bring that one back on Monday, and we can talk about it a little bit. Can you talk about the one additional year of eligibility for some players? Does that mean Stetson has 2 more years? Joey, I think either you or somebody asked me this question on Twitter today, and I addressed it. Here's the deal. This is the curveball for every college coach in college football right now. They don't know what the heck they're going to do with this because they don't know what the NCAA is going to do with it. So here's the deal. Every Division I football school right now has 85 scholarships on roster. You guys know this. If they allow an additional year of eligibility to everybody and allow them to take it, they have to give additional scholarships, presumably, to each school. Because they should like to say, we're going to give you a year of eligibility all they want. If they don't provide additional scholarships, what's Stetson Bennett supposed to do? Come back and pay to play at Georgia? Probably not going to do so. So what ends up happening, and what I said on Twitter today is, let's just throw an arbitrary number out there. Let's say the NCAA says, all right, everybody in Division I Power 5 football gets an additional 15 scholarships. And Georgia has 20 seniors that say they want to take that additional scholarship. Well, 5 of those guys are going to take that additional year of eligibility. 5 of those 20 are going to have to go elsewhere and take it. You follow me? Like they're not gonna condense their incoming recruiting class just to save the guys that want an additional year. They want those guys to come in 2021. So it's a real hairy situation, which is why I wasn't in favor of the NCAA doing this. If you guys have followed me and you've been paying attention to what I'm doing, you know how much of a non-advocate I am for the NCAA. I think they take the easiest way out every single stinking time they get a chance to. And this eligibility crap was the same it's a prime example. They get faced with Mark Emmert and his staff get faced with a hard decision. What are we going to do? How are we going to, accommodate for this season that we don't know how many games everyone's going to play? We don't even know if there's going to be a season. At the time he made the decision to give everyone a year of extra year of eligibility, I believe the SEC was the only one that was still adamant about playing football this fall. So he just threw his hands up, made the easy decision, and said, oh, everyone gets a year of eligibility. Nobody answered the question of how many extra scholarships you're going to give out. Nobody answered the question of, well, what happens to the incoming freshman class? Nobody answered those questions. They just said, oh, we'll give everybody a year of eligibility. Sounds sweet. Sounds great. But there's no finality to it. There's no answer at the end of the day. It's just another long road that they got to figure out. Let's see who we got next. Is we're saying Burton is playing indicative of how good he'll be once he knows the offense. RD, I think Jermaine knows the offense. Okay, I think what you saw last week was a check issue. The problem is converting these routes. And we talked about it with Marcus on Monday's show. Marcus Rosimi Jack Saint. There's so much going on with this system, right? There's so much you've got to change. Does he know where to line up? Yes, I fully believe that, or else they wouldn't be playing them like they are. They're playing the kid in 3 different positions too. You got to understand that. They're playing him at X, they're playing him at Z, and they're playing him in the slot. So imagine being 19 years old, 18 years old, being in your first year of college football and having to learn 3 different positions. It's something we saw with Tyreek Stevenson last year on the defensive side of the football. The guy was having to learn so much daggum stuff that he really was only retaining about 85% of it. But he was retaining 85% of information at 3 different positions. To me, that's pretty daggum impressive. Same thing to me for Jermaine. I think he's going to continue to play and continue to play and continue to play. And here's why. Did y'all see what Matt Landers did last week? Y'all was all over Matt Landers last week for not giving effort and diving after that football. That's been Matt Landers, baby. That's what he's been since he's been here. So it ain't a problem about separating. It dang sure ain't a problem about blocking, which is, to me, is the only, when I watch tape, it's the only reason that guy's on the field, because he blocks his butt off. But yeah, I think Burton knows 90% of the offense at this point at 3 different positions, which again, to me, is incredibly impressive. Do you think Stetson is still the starter by the end of the year? Here's the deal. I still don't know how fully healthy JT Daniels is. I really don't. That gets back into that ceiling and floor discussion. I do believe, though, however, that Kirby, the moment that dude struggles, they're pulling him. They're going to put somebody in. But they don't. I don't think they pull him until they know JT Daniels is fully healthy. He didn't like what he saw from DeJuan Mathis. I'm going to tell you that right now. He pulled him pretty daggum early in that football game against Arkansas, and threw Stetson out there. So if Stetson plays well, like he's doing, I don't think he comes off the field. Which UGA defender has pleasantly surprised you on film this year? Tyson Campbell would be the easy answer. I'll say Azeez Ojulari, and here's why. Everybody loved last year. I'm gonna tell you what. When I went back and watched his tape from last year and did the breakdown, which you can find on our YouTube or on this YouTube channel, man, I didn't see a whole lot of burst. I didn't see a whole lot of explosion. I didn't see a whole lot of bend. The things NFL evaluators look for in terms of whether or not he's going to play on Sundays, I didn't see a whole lot of that on tape last year. And here's how I know what confirmed my thoughts about Azeez on tape last year. Did y'all notice the preseason SEC all coaches all SEC team? Did you notice who wasn't on it? First, second, or third team? Azeez Ojulari. You know why? Because when they watched his tape from last year, that guy didn't scare opposing defenses. They knew he was technically sound. They knew he was going to be in the right place at the right time. But on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 on automatic passing down, were they worried about Azeez Ojulari creating a sack or a forced fumble? No, they weren't. This year, they probably are. So I think, to me, that's the guy that's impressed the most. Or a guy like Quay Walker. Quay Walker's, I mean, he was impressive last year to me on tape, but he's playing a lot more this year, so you just see a lot more of him. Saw where PFF ranked had us ranked 2nd best offensive line. I agree with that ranking. That was in the nation, right? I don't know who they were behind, but yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I don't know who they were. I'm in total agreement with that. I'll ask you Monday. Brooks, couldn't help myself. You're good, Garrett. Don't worry about it. You think Quay Walker gets more PT to have more size against UTK running game? That's one or two situations, right? They either bring an additional defensive lineman onto the field when they do this heavy run package from Tennessee, or Quay Walker, they run 3 linebackers actually. I think that really could do a good, thing for him. Jermaine, there's a little money sign down there. Hit that, or just subscribe, or go over there to the Patreon account. We'd appreciate it if you do that. Vol fan here. What are the biggest keys to Tennessee to stand a chance? I tweeted about this one. I can't remember all of them, but off the top of my head, I'll tell you this. Gotta play fast. If you get down 2 scores, you're gonna be in big trouble. Big trouble, because you're trying to throw in a rainstorm. Not gonna be good. You got to control the line of scrimmage, both sides of the football. That's obvious. That's SEC football. Guys, if you ask me what the key to victory is in the SEC, it's control the line of scrimmage. And I'm not the only one that thinks this. Kirby Smart is too. He's a smart guy. No pun intended. Maybe pun intended. Control the line of scrimmage. Play fast. When Jim Chaney dials up shots, y'all got to hit them jokers. If Jared Guantano does not convert almost every single shot that Chaney dials up, Look, I don't care if there's a Cat 5 hurricane out there on Saturday. Jim Chaney's going to try to throw the ball downfield at least 2 or 3 times in the game. And if y'all don't hit him, I don't think you got a chance. Hey, man, we welcome Tennessee fans around here. We're okay. You know, I'm friendly. We're getting loaded right here. Sorry, I'm way behind, guys. I'll try to be a lot quicker. Do we lose this football game if we can't rush at least 100 yards? I don't like to speak in, finalities like that. But, yeah, in a rainstorm, I think you absolutely got to run for at least 100 yards on Saturday, and I don't think you're going to have a problem doing it. Tennessee's given up an average of 100 yards a game this year against Missouri and South Carolina. So, yeah, I think you're going to be okay there. I know you love McClendon. Who do you think the best and upcoming offensive line at Georgia is with all the recent recruits they brought in? I love McClendon. I love Tate Ratledge. In 2 years, Broderick Jones might be the best and most athletic tackle you've ever seen, but he's nowhere near ready to go. There's a lot of technique stuff that he needs to clean up. And I told you that back in March, if you've been paying attention to Dogs Daily. Because, actually, the way I do my job is I not only go watch the guy, not only go watch the kid, but I watch him train, and I talk to his trainer, right? So I know Broderick Jones is offensive line trainer. So who's going to know that kid's deficiencies more than the guy who's been training him since he was 14 years old? Nobody. The reason I know Jermaine Burton's the truth is because I know his wide receiver trainer. I go ask him, what are you seeing that I'm seeing? Because if you're seeing what I'm seeing, this dude's going to be great. This dude's going to be great. Confirmation, period. That's what I do. I don't know how anybody else does their job, and they may do it really, really well. That's how I do my job. If I know a kid's coming in, I go talk to who's been shaping and molding the guy since he was 14 years old. And the guy that's been shaping Broderick since he was 14 years old confirmed what I thought. It's really raw. But my God, what a specimen. That dude is the most athletic human being I've ever evaluated and ever seen in person. He is freakish, okay? But there's some technique stuff he's got to clean up. Love Tate Ratledge. Love Broderick in the future. Love Tate now. I think Tate could play tomorrow if you really wanted to. Chad Lindbergh, nasty. The guy that's going to be leading this offense in a couple of years is Cedric Van Granger. So the issues that some people have had with Trey Hill not really being a vocal leader, you're not going to have that with Cedric. Cedric's probably the loudest kid in that room right now at Georgia. That's Ben Cleveland included. That's Jamari Sawyer included. I guarantee you nobody talks louder when they're on the football field. Nobody controls the line of scrimmage more. What in the world? Jesus. I appreciate you become the C. That's not even a question. Give a round of applause for this gentleman right here. I appreciate you, brother. Hit me up on Twitter or somewhere. Find me on Facebook. Find me somewhere. I got to get you a shirt. I got to get you something to let you know that I appreciate you as much as you appreciate me, because that right there is what it's all about. It's not all about the money, but it's about the appreciation. I want to show you some more appreciation other than the work that I'm doing for you guys. Back to the offensive line question, Britt. Love all those guys they brought in 2020. I think they're all studs. There's some younger guys, some bigger guys that got to shape up their body a little bit different. But other than that, they're going to be solid. Give me a guy on both teams that could show up Saturday and be a game changer. So for Georgia, I think the game changer for both sides. It's Eric Gray from Tennessee. It's the running backs. It's Eric Gray from Tennessee. It's Zamir White or Kenny McIntosh. I think Kenny McIntosh might break a real long run on Saturday. Look, real wet turf, real sloppy environment. It's going to be about which athlete keeps their feet underneath them the best. I think Eric Gray from Tennessee and Kenny McIntosh does that the best. Does that the best. You guys get it. Special teams should really help UGA this year. Offense hasn't touched the surface on capabilities due to all the weapons Monkey uses all players. Should be harder to stop. Do you agree? Yeah, I think Georgia's definitely harder to stop this year just because all the the variety of looks that they give defenses and what Monken does to stress defenses. If you guys watch Tuesday's breakdown, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That guy knows where he's trying to go with the football. So pre-snap and post-snap, for that matter, he does everything he can to create a void in the defense where he's trying to get the football. Makes it really easy on the quarterback. They got a better back when basically switched Kenny Mack or Emory at LSU. Do you think we got the better back when we basically switched Kenny Mack for Emory at LSU? Yeah, man, Kenny McIntosh is the truth. I said during the Sugar Bowl last year, he really, really gives me DeAndre Swift vibes. Really. Is he going to go to the combine and run 4.42? I don't know. But God, he runs like him. Y'all ever notice how the first guy never tackles that dude? The first defender never tackles Kenny McIntosh. The first defender never tackled DeAndre Swift. That's why he's the 35th overall pick. Christian Miller coming in here. This is what I'm talking about. When I go see players, this is one of them. When I go talk to their trainer, this is one of them. This is going to be one of the best offensive, defensive line guys. Christian, you know I love you. You're an offensive lineman on Sundays. You might be a defensive lineman on Saturdays. So that's why these guys love me, because I give them the truth, 100% truth. I've been telling Christian for months he's offensive lineman, and he'll eventually get it. But he's a damn good defensive lineman too. Plays over there at Cedar Grove High School. He's going to be one of the best in that 2022 class. Y'all need to pay attention to his name. Go follow him on Twitter, Christian Miller. Landers is a knucklehead. Agreed. Hey, Brooks, do you think they're going to put in any new plays, any plays with Dwan Mathis to make it more run-heavy on Saturday? That could be a very strong possibility, right? Get another run threat out there, maybe run some read option, maybe run some quarterback power. Yeah, very could be a possibility. Are they going to do it? I don't know. Kirby likes continuity at the quarterback position. He don't really like continuity anywhere else. He rotates about 100 guys across the field, but typically doesn't do it with the quarterback position. If he ain't going to do it with Justin Fields in 2017 or 2018, he dang sure ain't going to do it with Stetson Bennett and Dwan Mathis in 2020. If Georgia stops the run, do you think Tennessee has a chance of putting up any touchdowns? No. Unless there's a busted play. There very well could be a double move, but it's going to be raining like we think it is. Oh, freshman Arian Smith. Last time I heard, he had his knee scoped. Obviously had the wrist injury, or it was two pre-existing injuries that he had from high school. He had a wrist surgery he had to have, and then he had his knee scoped earlier in the season. What do we know about Carson Beck? Last time I was told, and I know what Aaron Murray said about the last scrimmage. I understand that. Last time I was told, Carson's having some speed adjustments from high school to college. Has nothing to do with retention of the offense, has nothing to do with the skill set. He's just not quite ready to play SEC football, but he will be next year because he's going to be playing scout team all year. So that's good. Who's the best quarterback? It's a good question right here. All love to Carson Beck, but they're in three different classes, right? Beck's a 2020 kid, Vandergrift's a 2021 kid, Gunner's a 2022 kid. So let's just talk about the high school kids right now. I'm a big fan of Brock Vandergrift, and here's why. If y'all read that article, look, all three of these guys can throw piss missiles all up and down the field. They can throw rockets. They all got big arms. They're for the most part all great athletes too. I would venture to say if you line guys up, Beck's like a 4.65, 4.7 type kid. Vandergrift's like a 4.58, 4.6 flat type kid. Gunner Stockton's like a 4.8 kid in the 40. So they're all really good athletes in their own way. They all got really great arms. The reason I love Brock Vandagriff is, to me, this is what I compare him to. This is who I compare him to. To me, he's Andrew Luck. Mentally and physically, for that matter, he's Andrew Luck to me. I've never seen a kid control the football game like that kid from the quarterback position. They talk all the time about having a quarterback on the field. I haven't seen anything like that. What I watched on the sideline, standing right next to him for most of the game, what I watched on that sideline when Rabin played Prince Avenue, I haven't seen it. And I'll tell you the story. So I've always considered, you guys think I'm a pretty smart football guy, right? Y'all think I know football pretty daggone well. I was the same way as a player. I had to be. I had to study everything. I really had to know what I was going to see on Saturday. So because I wasn't athletically overwhelming to make up for not being right in the exact spot I needed to be at the exact same time. So I was always studying film, always knowing my personnel packages, always doing that kind of stuff. When I tell you Brock Vandagriff did something that I would never in my years of football would ever have amounted to, and I think we'll try to get to the rest of the questions, but I think it's going to be our last one tonight because I love this story so much. So middle of the fourth quarter, Prince Avenue's driving, or coming back into this football game. Brock had just thrown a touchdown to Logan Johnson. They brought it in, I think, 10 points or something like that, within 2 scores after really being a 3-score game most of the football game. And Brock's standing on the sideline while Prince is on defense. Gunner and Raven County are driving the ball downfield, and Brock's corner on the far side of the field, all the way across the field, goes down. And I don't know if the kid went down with a calf cramp. I don't know if he went down with a rolled ankle. I don't know what it was. But before anybody on the sideline, before the trainer, before the head coach, before the defensive coordinator, before anybody on that Prince Avenue sideline knew what was going on, Brock turned around and hollered for the kid's backup to get loose. Okay, so here, to me, this is why this is impressive to me. Not only was he tuned into the game, not only was he encouraging his teammates, not only was he locked in as 100% as you possibly could be, but he knew who the heck the backup corner was. The backup cornerback, the quarterback knew who the backup corner was to go into the field. That to me is beyond impressive. Okay, it's the other stuff too. It's calling his own plays as a quarterback in a high school situation. As level-headed as any kid could possibly be. I mean, no highs and lows with this kid, none. And he'll celebrate a little bit when he scores a touchdown, but really no lows. He's never frustrated. He never shows emotion negatively. He's flatline all day long, flatline. And that's why he's so locked in mentally, because he has no highs, no lows. He's just constantly thinking about the next thing, analyzing the next thing. He's a computer chip. He really is. He's a computer chip at the quarterback position. So I'm not going to pick between all three, because I think all three of them are great football players. But if my money was on any of the three, I'm taking BVG. Long story. Let's see if we got any other major questions in here. Brandon Howell's mad he got skipped. Let me go back up and try to get to it. Guys, I still got a film breakdown to get to for my Patreon folks. So let me see if I got any more super subscribers. I do want to say something again for my guy, Become the C. Appreciate you, brother. Let's get this. Do you think Georgia's D can make Tennessee's offense look ordinary? Yeah, they do that all the time. They do that absolutely all the time. They make all kinds of great offenses look ordinary, except for LSU last year. Who has disappointed the most this year on each side of the football? Y'all, man, this hurts my heart to say this. Y'all know who's disappointed me the most on offense. If you watched anything the last couple of weeks, it's been that number one, that George Pickens guy. I don't think that's going to continue. I really do worry, though, if he's like banged up at all, because it's just not the same kid. It's just not the same kid effort-wise. And it's touch and go, though. That's the other thing that bothers me a little bit. Some plays you'll see him bury kids in the sideline. The next one he's taking them off. So if there can be some more consistency there, I'm off of George Pickens. I'm going to lay off of him. If they're just give me 75% effort in the run game and then do everything else you can as a wide receiver, because he's so daggum good as a wide receiver that you really don't have to block that much. Just give me 75% effort. That's all I ask for. Just don't give me 100% on some plays and 20% on the others. Just give me 75%. Just be like Brock Vandergrift. Just be flatline in the run game. Just kind of give minor effort. Just don't loaf. That's all I'm saying. Defensively, hard to tell. I've kind of loved everybody that's played this year. Richie's busted a couple things, and obviously the targeting penalty is not great, but I don't think anybody's really disappointed me on the defensive side of the football. Let's see here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to call it a night. But here's what I want to say. Again, the Patreon account is in the link in the bio. Right now, tonight, I'm going to, as soon as we get done with this, I'm going to go grind the tape on somebody that's either a prospect or a current commit, and we're going to break them down. And we're going to break them down like we do all that other stuff. But I really do believe that these personnel or these person-to-person breakdowns are some of the most vital stuff you'll ever find about these prospects coming up. I'm not going to tell you, what their favorite pair of shoes are in an article. That doesn't serve you purpose. What does serve you purpose is to find out what type of football player the kid is. That's what's going to be up tomorrow morning on our Patreon account over there for the OGs, For people who don't know what that means, it's the original gangsters. The folks in that Patreon account, and we were loaded with them today. I appreciate all you guys that signed up. We need to get that thing more and more locked in. We got one more super sub before we go. Just some appreciation. Thank you, Trey Nolan. That's what it's all about. It's about learning. Appreciate you, my guy. But hey, look, sign up for the Patreon account, and then you'll get all the other stuff. Because Monday, YouTube will not have the offensive breakdown. Tuesday, YouTube will not have the defensive breakdown. Wednesday, you will have the upcoming scout. And guess what? I just got my hands on some Alabama tape. Yes, sir. We got some Alabama tape y'all going to get to see next week. So come in for that on Wednesday on YouTube. Thursday, we'll do the Q&A like we're doing right now on YouTube for all you guys. But the rest of the stuff that everybody else is getting over at the Patreon account is exclusive. Exclusive, which is important. Exclusivity is dope, right? Hey, man, I appreciate all you guys as y'all flood out. I appreciate y'all for being here. We will see you another time.